That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Wild 2.
And thank God it was a good one, man. We needed this. We're back with Season 4, Episode 6 of Rick and Morty, entitled Never Ricking Morty. Man, I don't know about you guys. I really don't. But word on the street, you know, the street that people are supposed to, like, stay off of these days. But word on the street is that this is, people are very much praising this episode as a return to form for the show. And I'm honestly one of them. I think that this episode might be the best one since the infamous Szechuan sauce episode way back at the beginning of Season 3. Man, this episode just has, it's got a lot going on, man. I'll say that much. I mean, it's got everything from, you know, from funny little vignettes in the first act to, oh my God, we're potentially getting spoilers about the series finale. It's like, I love it. It's all over the place. It's crazy sci-fi nonsense. It's exactly what this show should be. I like it a lot.
Dragon?
Here's the thing. It's a lot. We get a lot in this episode. Basically, if I were to summarize this, it would be that, you know, this is the Rick and Morty crew. They're trying to shake up kind of Interdimensional Cable, as they've been kind of on the track of doing since last season with that whole with the Morty's mind blowers of it all. And this is basically we're shaking up the anthology format, which is interesting. I think we shake it up in a really interesting way. I mean, I respect the heck out of what they did here, and they're definitely making up for the hiatus in a big way, which is admirable. I gotta tell you, and it's nothing against the episode. It's just I think it's just for me. I mean, this is maybe a little bit too much the process, man, because there's a lot thrown at you, and it's I think it's definitely a step above where we were last time with it. Last time we had that Rick Lactico thing with the rattlesnakes in space. That was weird.
Rattlestar Galactica.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, so that one kind of, definitely kind of lost me. I think a lot of people had the consensus of, Season 4, they're definitely playing the long game with things like, maybe we don't need to put kind of our all in all these episodes. Some we're just going to experiment with. And this felt like a more polished version of that, where they're doing a lot of ambitious stuff. I think they may have gone a little too convoluted for their own good in places, but it is very remarkable. I won't take anything away from the episode. Just I don't know if this is going to be an episode for everybody. I don't know.
Oh, it's definitely not an episode for everyone. I'll say that much. It's not as much of an instant crowd pleaser as Interdimensional Cable by a long shot. But that's kind of what I respect the episode. Anyways, Jacob, what do you think?
Long story short, I think this is at least definitely the best episode of the season so far.
Yay! Huzzah! Solidarity.
I mean, it sure doesn't have like some of the knockout endings that the other episodes lacked, but as like a consistently quality episode, this is definitely like the first consistently high quality episode of the season so far.
What I really like about this episode is that it's the first episode, like I said, at least since Season 3, honestly, where my brain is just kind of going on overdrive. And I'm not saying this, it's like, I know it's like a meme at this point to be like, oh, Rick and Morty fans think they're more intelligent than everyone else. No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to be like that. But what I am saying is that this show at its best does get your brain going, with episodes like the Parasite episode or, I don't know, episodes of that nature. I can't, I can't think of a lot off the top of my head, but just the best of this show really is the ones where it's so high concept, like the Love Potion episode. And so with this, I think this is probably the most ambitious this show's ever gone, honestly, in terms of just like how high concept everything is. Dragon, I totally get what you're saying. And honestly, I will say this, Dragon. I watched this episode 3 times in a row because I was so fascinated by it. But the first half of my first watch, I wasn't really feeling it. I'll give you that. It's a grower of an episode for me. By the end of the episode, when we get to the potential series finale, WTF of it all, then I was just naturally hooked. But, the first half is a little slow, but we'll get into it. Anyways, we got Claude Karinga in the comments here.
Claude!
Hey there, Claude. Claude says this is Justin Roiland's week. First, a new Rick and Morty. And on Friday, Solar Opposites comes out, will you be doing podcasts on that show?
Yeah, I looked into this a little bit.
Is it going to be weekly, or are they dropping them all at once?
Well, I think Solar Opposites is going to be on Hulu, and well, Hulu, you ordinarily. Here's the thing: the way they did Runaways, it used to be like a weekend episode, but then I forget if they had them all at once going into the third season. I don't know if they still do that, so I'm not 100%. It might be all at once. It might be. Don't quote me on that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sorry, I got no idea. I wish I could help. I saw the trailer for it recently. The club brought it up.
Off the top of your hand, on top of your head. Anyways, honestly, I'll do podcasts on it if I feel passionate about it. But if it's just okay, Dragon, you know how I feel about just okay.
Yeah, sorry, folks. He ain't a fan of Just Okay. He's a little too good for Just Okay, apparently.
But if I really like it, then sure, I'll do a podcast about it. If not, it'll definitely get mentioned on Memoirs one way or another.
Yeah. Either if he really likes it or really hates it, he'll be talking about it. So.
Anyways, all right, guys. So where to start with this episode? Because I just want to kind of go all over the place with it.
Okay, it looks like all at once, according to Claude here. It says Solar Opposites will realize all 8. I think it means release all 8 episodes.
Well, honestly, Claude, unless I'm just like totally indifferent on the series, we should be able to do one podcast about it. You know, just covering all 8 episodes. So you seem to want it. So I like to give the fans what they want.
We aim to please.
Have it your way, as the Burger King would say.
Okay, frame broilers aside, let's focus up here. Okay, so I want to talk about the anthology format for a second here, because basically that's kind of what we're doing here. We're kind of holding things up to the kind of the anthology thing, where it's kind of this episode overall feels like it's like anthology meets one crew over the crew coups Morty. That episode feels a little bit like we're ramping things up at the risk of maybe convoluting it for its own good, but that is kind of the point. Though the whole episode is very painfully and mentally aware of we're just kind of that's honestly I'll put a flagpole right here, is that this episode, as impressive as it is, and again I know they're making sense. I'm just having trouble tracking because they're throwing so much at you at the same time. But here's the thing. This kind of episode makes me fear that maybe they're getting a little too boastful about themselves and their storytelling ability. Look at all the stuff we can do coming back. Makes me fearful that going forward, it's going to be like we're just going to deconstructing everything and kind of like a look what we can do sort of way, like we're when we took pot shots of the heist movie format. Now we're doing with the anthology format, which we kind of made a meal off of with Interdimensional Cable, and like we don't want to do Interdimensional Cable, at least not until we darn well feel like it. So let's just deconstruct the heck out of it on a train,
Yeah. Man, a lot to take in there. A lot to take in with the episode in general, obviously. What I love about the episode is how multi-layered everything is. And honestly, for me, it kind of flows together. I don't want to sound pretentious when I say this, but it kind of flows together for me in the same way a Nolan film has a lot of layers to it, but ultimately does work if you map it all out. Where, we have elements like the universe where, the universe where it flashes back to Rick and he's like a normal guy and he's lived this whole alternate life.
Oh, yes, Professor Sanchez.
Professor Sanchez. I mean, there's just so many vignettes like that. And then, of course, the Vietnam crazy messed up Morty and just get back in the egg, Morty. None of that is
I call that the Eternal Sunshine sequence, because it just feels like we're jumping from like memory to memory to just tangent to tangent. One could say, just kind of reality to reality.
Because it all kind of tracked in terms of to me, what it was kind of like different layers of the Matrix in which this multiverse exists in the show.
Kind of a Charlie Kaufman wet dream. That's kind of the way.
Right. It's like it really was a head trip, man. It really was. Jacob, any thoughts?
I mean, I can't really add anything to what you guys just said.
Okay, just checking. Don't want you to get lost in the conversation here.
Claude brings up a bird person. Should we talk about Phoenix person?
Man, I mean, I guess, but I gotta tell you, that musical number wasn't my favorite bit in the episode by a long shot.
I was, again, less that was more here's the thing that really grabbed me a Bird person was the whole Phoenix person, seeing that continue with a little peek at a potential series finale of some sort.
Well, yes, the series finale. I mean, that I feel like we're kind of burying the lead if we don't talk about the series finale element, because that's what everyone's talking about.
I think they themselves reference like that's not the best. Like, when they're talking about the musical part, like that's not the best time Rick and Morty was ever a musical.
That's true. That's true. It really wasn't. It kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my god, that series finale, dude! Like, it totally feels like it because the animation is up. You know, we've got like the army of Meeseeks and evil Morty just standing there all menacingly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have a burnt, messed up Mr. Poopy Butthole.
I call it
Emperor.
Darth. I call it Darth Poopy Butthole, but that's just
oh god! I mean, it's crazy, but it honestly all kind of makes sense in terms of like where we're going with this show, with, you know, the evil Morty of it all, and like, oh, what does Mr. Poopy Butthole have to do with everything? How's he going to tie in? And, you know, Meeseeks are fan favorites. It totally makes sense that they'd have an army there at the end of the show. And I don't know, it all clicked so much.
It's got scale. It looked a little like almost like a glimpse into kind of a finale TV movie of sorts. It's kind of given the scope
it looked
of
like
it
a
all.
potential theatrical movie,
Yeah.
with the lighting and everything.
Exactly, and kind of the big money shot. I believe they used some digital recreation for all the army of Ricks when they're panning through all of that. So
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, good stuff.
So let's backpedal a little bit. We're probably going to get
Okay.
back to the whole season, kind of season finale type stuff. But before we talk any further about that, a few of the anthologies kind of jumped out to me. Gombi, The Christmas Story.
That was hilarious. Yes. Oh god.
See, that to me, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is the kind of Rick and Morty humor. Is like, okay, this is striking me right away. It was really very authentic. Like the whole, like, he opens the door.
Awkward. It's so realistically awkward.
And that's really fun. Like, oh, you save Christmas in quotes because we didn't see him save Christmas, but the point being, let's save Christmas, and it's like, oh, thank you. I don't know how we're going to repay you, and obviously you can let him in. You think it's going to be a heartwarming, like, so he's just saying, oh, Merry Christmas. Rather say Merry Christmas, thanks, and all that sort of stuff. Oh, do you want to come in? I mean, I could ask, but
I could ask. No, I don't want
That's
to.
what I'm saying. I love how cool
dude.
they both are about it. That's what I'm saying. It's not
Right.
it doesn't devolve into like a Curb Your Enthusiasm argument. Like, why would you invite me in if you weren't going to actually invite me? It's not that. It's just like, okay.
God.
Cool.
And then Gombi just like stands outside in silence, just shivering, and that's when the anthology ends.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of the whole anthology, we start off with kind of our guest who eventually does the voice of literally Jesus Christ. But Chris Maloney. Chris Maloney's in this, man.
Yes.
Seriously, if anyone watches Happy, like, he's coming back on the show, kind of made his career.
I know him from Oz, actually.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the big two things Chris Maloney is kind of very well renowned for is Oz is a big one, and the other thing kind of made his career for many years, kind of the bread and butter gig, if you will, is Law and Order SVU.
Oh, there you go.
But again, Tiki, you got to check out Happy. Both seasons are on.
I know.
Netflix.
I want to check it out. It's on my list for sure.
Anyway, point being, Chris, I love when he shows up in things, and of course, he's playing Jim Gordon on the Harley Quinn animated show, so he's a lot of fun these days.
God.
Point being, a lot of fun there is playing kind of like Morty Incognito, is just kind of like the guy saying, "If I hear one more Rick Sanchez, or I'm going to shoot somebody."
Oh, tell your Rick Christmas story. God damn it!
At first, like I said, I totally call it disguise bit. I was like, I thought that the guy like doing the tickets was going to be Rick, like, you know, getting reconnaissance or something. But then turns out it was actually the guy asking about not wanting to talk about Rick. I was like, well, I got half right, I guess.
Dearly departed tickets, please, guys.
That's like the whole episode. The tickets, please, guy runner.
We have to talk, Dragon. Hold that thought, okay? Because we have to talk about the tickets, please, guy. Oh God. This is what I'm talking about, man. It's like we devote a whole segment of the episode into like the fact that there's a reality going on inside the ticket please guy's head where
not just one reality.
No, multiple reality. I know. That's the thing. Like, to me, it's like it's layered, but I can kind of track with it. I can kind of be like, okay, you know, the stuff at the Blitz and Chips is happening in one layer, and then the stuff with like the guy who's like, oh, I'm gonna keep my virginity for the sake of the universe, that's happening in another one. And then I love the timing of that, where it's just like, oh, screw it. Let's just do it once. Bam, bam, bam. Sorry.
Think about it. Let me show you how trippy this is, Tiki. There's at least 3 really heady realities go on, because remember, the main one who's at like the Chuck E. Cheese sort of place, he's playing that game that Morty played once, where basically the Dave and Buster's where you die, and so that was the one reality which he thinks is false, which he is then going back to his reality where he's kind of like the burden of a grandfather to a family, it looks like, and then of course in his dying moments within the dying fantasy, he's like, again, I'm sorry, exactly what you, but it's hysterical.
It's crazy.
Just held together by the kind of the unified beliefs of just kind of these basically stoners, essentially. That's kind of what it looks like.
So yeah, it's like, I don't want to just be all like, oh, this episode is for smart people, but really it is pretty. It's a pretty big head trip of an episode. I mean, it's not nearly Dragon. You think this is weird? You got to check out the Midnight Gospel, man. This is nothing compared to the Midnight Gospel.
Is that pretty much like a true art is incomprehensible kind of thing?
Jacob, I mean, I wouldn't call it incomprehensible, but it's like a podcast where you have to be into the subject matter. It's way based on like meditation and spirituality and yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip.
Right.
Anyways, I wouldn't recommend it for most people, but I personally enjoy it just for the visual element. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I thought there'd be a lot to talk about, but really this episode is just kind of like a series of just WTF high notes.
A few things that is going to highlight.
Again, as I noticed, like as I continue to notice, like the ending is actually the ending, like where actually the adventure we've been following was actually a meta adventure in of itself.
It was. That's my favorite part of the episode is the toy train reveal. I got to be honest. That is just so funny. Just this idea that basically, I love that Rick is so pro consumerism. I love that idea so much. He's just like that ridiculous speech, and that you bought something with your own money, Morty. It's just so passionate, so good about.
Honestly, I feel like part of that speech is like maybe an anti-stay in place. Because it's like he's talking about going into a physical brick and mortar establishment. Like, you went to a place and you purchased something.
Yep.
I don't know. Because Claude's talking about the Voldemort of it all, as we'll call it, Claude. The Voldemort of it all.
Keep calling Voldemort, but fine. Just
I honestly didn't like that. Like that joke. Not because it's offensive or anything, just because it felt.
You didn't like the joke.
Just because it felt kind of flat.
I'm sorry, what joke?
Would you say, or just
the last joke of this before the credits?
Oh, okay.
Last joke, dude. Like the big.
It's like it felt kind of flat and felt really forced.
You know what? I'm kind of in the middle between you and Claude, because Claude seems to really like it, and I thought it was a little forced, but at the same time, I thought the timing of it was okay, and I do think it was in character. So. I don't know. I don't hate it. I'm kind of mad about it, to tell you the truth. Right. So guide me through this ending here, because what I get out of it is that the Rick and Morty that we're following throughout the episode are basically like non-playable characters in this simulation on the train, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, that's pretty much what I got of it. Like the Rick and Morty that got the train set is the one that is the main Rick and Morty that we follow.
Right. Oh, and there goes Dragon. Wonderful.
And the Rick and Morty that were in the train were like the parts of the advertisement that were part of like how they advertise like all the like various people fulfilling these roles. That's what those Rick and Mortys were.
So in a way, the whole episode is kind of like Serenity, the 2019 Matthew McConaughey cult classic, where, spoiler alert, it all turns out to be a video game.
Well, I guess I haven't even seen that movie, but I can already guess I got more enjoyment out of this episode than I would that movie.
Yeah, well, the movie is kind of a cult classic. Dragon, this is why you can't leave, because in the time you were gone, I brought up Serenity.
Figures.
But seriously, it is kind of a similar twist, right? Like the whole idea that every character in this episode is kind of like a non-sentient, non-playable character who just exists for the sake of the simulation.
I guess, yeah. You know, in a sense, sure.
You're like, all right, fine.
No, but seriously, I love this whole like consumerism.
I'm just a hooker who can't afford hooks, Morty.
No, there's just this whole. What I love even more so is the post-credit gag. This whole advertisement for the fictional product that is the story train, and with all the ethical implications of you're selling beings who have their own lives, like their puppets who don't matter essentially.
Okay, you guys want to know a fun fact about that? So
Yes.
I went to the website storytrains.com.
Oh, don't tell me.
It just leads to the Rick and Morty website. It's nothing too exciting.
Oh.
But the first time I typed in the website, I accidentally typed in story-train singular.com without the S. And I swear to God, you know what it led me to?
What?
I'm not making this up. It led me to the homepage of the current president.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that, like, it's weird, but I could see Adult Swim pulling something like that, buying out an IP, like a URL, I should say, buying out a URL and relinking it just to cause a stir. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like the Aqua Teen thing from back in the day. But I've not heard anyone else reporting on it, but it was just a weird thing that, I mean, story-train.com. Don't go there, folks. Go to story-trains.com. That'll just lead you to the Rick and Morty website. Honestly, Dragon, I was really excited because I thought it might lead me on like a Better Call Saul style, like scavenger hunt of like, oh, if I go on the website, maybe I can find a phone number or something I can call,
See, here's the thing I kind of connected it to when I saw that ad, which already is so fun. It reminded me so much of like the gag at the end of Freakazoid, well, and the gag in the middle of Freakazoid for the Freakamobile, the whole the idea they would sell a fictional product within the show, which sounds really awesome. And again, they actually have like the disclaimer from Joe the announcer saying, and this is not a real product. We just thought it'd be funny. We just like listening through all of that, and it's just really I just love the kind of the fake products being advertised. It's quite funny, and just Rick being so impassioned about it at the end there. And again, I love the fact that the Citadel of Rick has a gift shop as well, which entertains me to no end. A lot of fun there. Perhaps we should talk about the conductor of the train, the story lord.
Yes. Oh my God, we'd be remiss if we didn't.
You know who it is, don't you?
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, your guy. Yeah,
one of my guys.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Paul Giamatti.
All right.
Yeah.
You got really in the shape for this role too, by the way.
right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's kind of playing against type. Honestly, he's kind of playing like a stoic, heroic type, where Paul Giamatti is usually playing like kind of like the unhinged, kind of like neurotic guy.
Everyone in the future is ripped.
Yeah. God, it's funny. All right.
One of my favorite gags. It's just a really small little bit, but it's where the conductor's kind of, challenging Rick and Morty to a fight, and Rick's just like, Morty's just like, oh, Rick, do we really want to do this? And Rick's just like, no, we don't. Look, we surrender. And it's just like, no, that's not going to do anything.
See, here's what I really loved about that. See, I love when basically Rick kind of calls him as he's like a Matrix Space Frasier. And
oh my God, I love Matrix Space Frasier.
And here's the thing: if you look at him, if you look at Giamatti's character, again, he does have the hair like Frasier towards the beginning of the show. Basically, it's Frasier with a beard, and he's holding the coffee just like Frasier does, and it's quite hilarious. Entertain me being the big Frasier fan that I am. So I got a kick out of that one. Anyways, let's see. There's a lot of some fun stuff there, and basically overall, I mean, with the story lord and his role, it kind of reminded me a lot of. It kind of dawned on me with the episode and the rewatch. It's basically like a meta Snowpiercer meets the story circle of like the old crossing the threshold, basically kind of the old story circular kind of method.
Yeah, sure.
Which Dan Harmon's a big proponent of, and that's why it's in the episode, and that's probably the motivation behind that. Someone drop quarters or something? Like, well,
No?
all right.
I have no idea what that was.
Yeah, neither do I. Okay. Anyway. All right, let's see. Is there anything else that we're not? Should we just circle back to any like kind of the fifth wall stuff? So that's the fifth wall is basically what gets a little. Basically, we're peeking beyond the veil of kind of like breaking the fourth wall and all the meta contextual stuff. What's beyond the fourth wall? The fifth wall, we're seeing seasons in the future, which is a really neat.
Well,
idea.
I mean, it's not just seeing seasons in the future. It's like I said, it's kind of seeing beyond the matrix of the multiverse. It's like the multiverse in itself is pretty complex. But then we get this whole idea of like, like Morty's like in this like egg simulation thing and they're like wanting to push him back in. And then we get that trippy head trip of, the Professor Rick and Vietnam Morty and just all these different crazy scenarios of like, it honestly kind of bursts the theory door sort of wide open with this show a little bit.
Yeah, I love the solution of like turning to Jesus in your last moments, which
that was a wonderful solution. Yes.
Now, hopefully, when they eventually do, if these events do
hey
come
there,
to pass,
Crossy, what's up, Biblesaurus?
That's what I'm saying. Also, there's like a VeggieTales homage in there where you see like the tomato and the what was it? The tomato and the
just
pickle.
Straight up celery. I think his name was just Salary.
Right. Anyway, so point being,
maybe his name was Sal Larry.
Oh God. Anyway. Point being, we have like all the biblical stuff and all of like Rick's logic here. Basically, I'm going to tank the story that everyone's so engrossed in, which basically is powering the machine, and basically kind of like stop it in the hole and basically make it all Bible-y and just kind of take people out of the story, and basically take the power away from our captor right now. And also, I love the catch-all of like, how is it offensive? Like we turned to Jesus. Who's going to be against that? How was that offensive? Which again. That's solid enough logic.
That's definitely a great way to like beat the story lord at his own game.
Yeah, I mean they said nothing offensive about him. They gave him like super killer abs. So I mean,
Yeah, just overall, I like how this episode has a progression to it. It's like Act 1. It's like we don't really know what we're in for. Because Act 1 is basically just kind of like the vignettes of like the stories about Rick, essentially. And then Act 2 kind of goes into like the matrixes, and then Act 3 kind of is the crazy sort of like series finale kind of stuff.
I honestly thought they were like going to go for like the whole like these. I thought the whole base of the episode was going to be like these people telling stories about Rick, and like Rick was like going to kill them all at the end or something.
That's what I thought it was going to be too. It was really kind of like that's kind of what I like about the episode is it kind of had me on my toes.
And Rick just calls out. Imagine how disappointing that would be. Or he says that like, I was going to do that. Imagine what happened if we stood there and went through that story. And we just,
I will admit that would be pretty disappointing as an interdimensional cable type episode. I'll take this over that. I mean, don't get me
wrong, I would too. I mean, I just said that I was like half expecting it to end like to be like that.
Right.
The jab at
I'm sorry, really quick. As soon as in terms of like an interdimensional cable spinoff, I still think Morty's Mind Blowers is probably better as a concept, just because it's closer to the format of interdimensional cable while still being different enough. But I mean, this is ballsy, man. It's really going for it. It's really taking some chances, and I respect it.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Dragon. Sorry.
The jab at uber feminism was pretty funny.
Yes,
it was weird as all get out, but it was kind of funny.
The fucking Bechdel test.
Yeah,
they have to talk about they have to talk about someone other than a man, Morty.
The lady scorpions and RBG.
That's basically like Morty's. I'm sorry. That's basically Rick's dying words. Just like other than a man. And yeah, Morty's original story, just like, oh, hello, I like coffee. You have to come outside. There's scorpions. Lots of scorpions.
What do the scorpions want?
the dumbest, and I love the flat performance by the actors. Like they just delivering like the worst table, like the worst cold table read you've ever heard. And that's the point, though. It's like it's been given like this Morty dialogue. They just can't spin. It's like.
And even Beth and Summer got in on that.
We made again. Talk about making a period joke, and that's what I'm saying.
Oh boy,
it's like Rainbow Blast and everything. It's just and then Ruth Bader Ginsburg comes into the why. Like Rick has this great response along the lines of every feminist around there loved it or something along those lines. Like perfect.
Right. It's a feminist masterpiece.
There you go. That's the line. Yeah,
it's a feminine masterpiece, Morty.
Oh god,
I love that. Like that was great.
All right.
It's probably like the funniest. Like for me, that was probably one of the funniest parts of the episode.
This is ridiculous.
I was basically going like, "What the hell?" the entire time.
At least it wasn't like hissing, you know. It wasn't just like nonstop, just kind of like hissing. Where it's like, what is happening right now? At least this one is off the rails for a point.
Okay, guys, I think we've pretty much said everything we need to say about this one. Do we know what next week's is going to be?
I want to say just kind of on schedule Sundays for the time being for like the next 5. I want to say.
Let me just pull up the names. Season 4.
Claude says, just like DuckTales 2017, Rick and Morty is really good at its casting. And that it is. They've gotten some greats over the years. Alfred Molina, for example.
Not so good at naming their episodes, but definitely good casting.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
even anytime they talk about their episodes, they only use the shorthand. They don't even use the episode names. That's what I'm saying. They don't even care about the episode titles. Always about a Rick pun. Or more often than not about a Rick pun. Sometimes there's a little gray area, but you know.
Right, we actually have the next 5 episodes listed.
See?
Next 4.
Okay, well, all I need is episode 7 for now.
It's called Promortius.
Promortius. Okay. All right. So, any final thoughts, guys?
Like I said, I would probably say that this is probably my favorite episode of the season so far. I mean, like I said, it's the most consistently high quality episode we've gotten of this season so far, and it's probably up there for probably in my top 10 favorites of the entire series.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jacob. I would definitely say top 10 of the series. And for me, this is easily the best episode since the season 3 premiere. I mean, this is just the show firing on all cylinders with the sci-fi concepts and just the jokes coming a mile a minute, stuff that makes you laugh, stuff that makes you think, a couple bits that get you a little emotional. I think it's wonderful. I think it was a great episode. And honestly, I think this show would have been in trouble if it would have come back with anything less than a stellar episode, and I'm so glad that it came back with a stellar episode. This is exactly what we needed.
The shot in the arm.
Exactly. Dragon.
Yeah, it's again they really they came lock, stock, and barrel, and I respect the heck out of it. I don't know if I'd say it's a favorite, but it's definitely what they needed, and hopefully I say they're teetering a line though. If they can keep it up or just keep it on brand, like either this one or maybe like rein it in a little bit, because again they came over prepared, and I respect that. It's just like, guys, don't go too off the rails, or don't go counting your chickens before they hatch, so to speak.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Sorry.
See, now I want to quote Michael Keaton, but I can't right now anyway. Okay. My point is, I think there's easily a line here where they can get overconfident with an episode like this. We're gonna get away with anything, and I'm gonna trust that these guys aren't gonna do that. But again, I think season 4 is gonna be a real determining factor, and given how much carte blanche they've been given with like all those seasons they've been already approved of. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, they can keep on sticking the landing. So we'll see.
Okay. All right, so yeah, big thanks to Claude Karinga for joining us in the comments here. And we will be back next Sunday for DuckTales, woohoo, and then we'll be back next Monday for Rick and Morty. We're on a pretty good consistent schedule here. So you guys are awesome. Have a good night. See y'all later.
On the lips, Morty.
It's called the Bechdel test, Morty. They have to talk about something other than a man.